Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nivasesha Sunyavadi Prasatyade Satarane Om Aganataminandasya Jana Jana Salakaya Chaksu Samilitan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Sa Pandantikam Vansakalpatrubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaja Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. The first verse we spoke about this morning, who remembers it? It was so long ago. Who can remember anything after we eat lunch anyway? It's the very nature of eating. I think that the consciousness and life airs goes to the stomach and then it escapes from the intelligence. But in any case, who remembers the verse we spoke about this morning? Raise your hand. I won't call on you, don't worry. Yeah? I will call on you. What verse was it? I just was looking to see if it was on there. You said it so nicely. Did you know it before? Okay. That verse had it as its essence to tell us that whoever we are, wherever we are, whatever our desire is, whether it's sarva kama, moksha kama, or even akama, we should worship Krishna, we should take shelter of bhakti with great determination. What was the word for very forceful, intense determination? Very good. But, and usually there are conditions apply, and there's a but to everything. We should know that the goal is not to go to Krishna Loka with all our sarva kama and moksha kama. We can't do it. But we want, the goal is to develop love for Krishna. Anya bilasita sunyam jnana kamar navrita. Because that allows us to be with Krishna. Otherwise, as I always find myself saying, if we want to go to Krishna Loka with our present consciousness, what will we do there? We'll go like this. Here's Krishna. And we'll go like this. And then put it on our Instagram, Facebook. Guess who's with Krishna? Yes, it's me. And it will be all about me again. And that all about me is material consciousness. And material consciousness does not allow us to go to the spiritual realm. So, here is part 2. Yes, we should go on the path. Yes, we should stay on the path. And yes, we should have our goal as love for Krishna. What's over there? I also want to see. But here is an essential, very important secret that if we adopt this verse, this second verse on the path, it will help us tremendously in remembering Krishna always. And could you put up the verse, please? I will give you a hint. Lord Brahma spoke this verse. He spoke it to Krishna. I've heard Prabhupada say that this verse is the secret, or a secret, or the secret in advancing in Krishna consciousness. Tate anukampam susamikshano. Susamikshano means sincerely hoping, desiring, wanting, needing Krishna's compassion, Krishna's mercy. Tate, therefore, Brahma says, anukampam, mercy, compassion. So the sincere hoping or desiring Krishna's mercy upon us is the first line of this verse. Tate anukampam. Anukampam means mercy, and susamikshano means compassion, or earnestly hoping for that compassion. And why would we hope for it unless we really need it? So being aware that we need Krishna's mercy, and earnestly, sincerely, earnestly means sincerely hoping for it. And then Bhurijana evatma. Now again, this is how to proceed on the path that we've just joined with akama savakama va. What kind of consciousness should we have that will make us go forward on that path? Bhurijana evatma kritam vipakam. Bhurijana means enduring, tolerating. What? Eva atmakritam. As Eva means certainly, atmakritam means basically as deserved. That the vipakam, or the difficulties that I find in my life, the difficulties I find in my life are eva atmakritam. They are the result of actions that I have performed. Atmakritam means done by me. Vipakam means fruit of actions. So tate anukumpam susamikshano. That means earnestly, sincerely desiring Krishna's mercy. And bhunjana, enduring, tolerating, accepting. Whatever happens to me, as Eva, certainly, whatever happens to me is certainly atmakritam vipakam. It is certainly a result of my karma, so to speak, or actions that I have done. So if we go through life thinking in this way and seeing the difficulties that we face as eva atmakritam vipakam, they are reactions to activities that I certainly have done. Then, at the same time as enduring them, tolerating them, accepting them, because usually we think, why is this happening to me? I'm such a wonderful person. I never do anything wrong. And the mind is so amazing, because one moment it'll blame everyone else for everything. And the very next moment, it will think itself so rotten and terrible. The mind will just jump from this side to this side to this side to this side. But here's the key. Hoping always for Krishna's mercy, enduring the difficulties as eva atmakritam vipakam, as a result of my previous activities. And what goes on inside as we're tolerating? Rid vagva purbya. Rid means with the heart. Vak means with the words. Vapur means with the body. Vidadadam, offering namaste. Always offering obeisances sincerely to Krishna while enduring the difficulties of life. Tolerating the difficulties of life, and offering one's namas, obeisances to Krishna, but not, as sometimes happens, we go into the temple, or I'll go into the temple, and I'll offer my obeisances to Radha Ballava, or first to Gaura, then to Radha Ballava, then to Jagannath Subhadra Baladev. And then someone will say, the deities are dressed so nicely today. And I'll have no idea what they were wearing. Because although my body offered obeisances, my mind was completely somewhere else. But these three, when the heart, the consciousness, the full-hearted consciousness, and one's words and one's body are all aligned, they're all going in the same alignment. And what is that alignment? Offering obeisances fully with the heart that you are the Supreme Lord. How can I serve you? I am your servant. Please accept my humble obeisances. Please accept my service. If all three are going in the same direction, while one is tolerating the difficulties of life and accepting that I have something to do with it and I've done something very difficult, not impossible, but very difficult. Why? Well, you ask yourself why. Why is it so difficult to do that? And no raising the hands for this one. Why is it so difficult to do that? It's because of pride, which is born of ahankar, false ego, and false identity, false sense of who I am. I think I'm huge, I'm big, I'm important, and actually I'm tiny and insignificant. So a person who can do this, who's so sincere, who sees himself, accepts himself as a servant of Krishna, and lives one's life in this way, such a person, jivatoyo, all he has to do is live, jivata. He doesn't have to do anything else. He's serving, he's thinking in this way, all he has to do is live. And mukti pade, he's liberated, he's achieved mukti pad. Just as naturally as Dayabhak, as the son inherits the property of the father, or the child inherits the property of the father, of the parents. It's natural. So such a person who lives in this way, with this consciousness, goes through life on the path of bhakti, in this way, all he has to do is live, be alive, and live in this way. Nothing else. So says Lord Brahma. Here is the translation. My dear Lord, Brahma is saying this. One who earnestly waits for you, earnestly means sincerely, waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him. That's the first line. All the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds. Second line. He's accepting that whatever difficulties I perceive in my life is just a reaction to my past deeds. Such a person who is offering you respectful obeisances, here's the third line, with his heart, his words, and his body, is surely eligible for liberation. Would have become his rightful claim. Rightful claim is Dayabhak, Mukti Pade, Jivato. He's eligible, meaning that all he has to do is live. Now, what do you think about that? Oh, maybe I first should ask you to think about it. Think about the last time you really were in difficulty. Oh, I don't really want to make everyone's afternoon miserable and ruin your digestion. But the last real difficulty you faced, maybe even a small one. I'm just now remembering something. It was simple and more or less insignificant. But when I was faced with it, I became angry at the person. Now, this type of a question and this type of a verse brings up a kind of question that Srikanta asked this morning on behalf of his group. When do you tolerate and go like this? And when do you act? But that's a more subtle question that requires some discrimination. But right now, this is how Lord Brahma explains that we should act as we go through life on the path and making advancement. Now we have, in our 15-minute segment, we have a whole of 2 minutes left. Anyone have a 2-minute question? Yes.
The first part says about the tolerance, but the second part which says about complete surrender.
The two must be done together.
So one can tolerate regardless whether he is surrender or not. He has no option. But the second part which says pays respectful obeisances with his heart, word and body, which seems to be impossible, at least for me. So that means from this verse it is not possible for me to achieve liberation.
No, it's not possible for you to achieve liberation unless you advance. But it's not that it's not possible, because we must identify ourselves as Krishna's servant. Now we'll hear more about this. And I was just listening to Prabhupada speak on this topic. As I was preparing for this class, I just happened to listen to Prabhupada's lecture, which was on something from Queen Kunti. And he ended up just speaking simply about this topic. And one of the things he said, and I heard it again this morning, he said that one should think, Krishna has come to me in this form. That's what he said. And he gave the example that religion is the front side of God and irreligion is the back side of God. But both are him. There is nothing separate from him. To be living a life of a devotee means to be living in Krishna's mercy alone, and therefore one can be Abhaya Charan. To see Krishna has come to me in this form, and how am I going to deal with Krishna in this form? Again, there's a subtlety in there. When do I tolerate and just accept Krishna's mercy? And when do I try to cross the road? But that's not what we're talking about right now. We're just talking about the point. So you say that it's not possible for you to attain liberation, but Vrindavan is very, very fine and subtle consciousness. We're going to hear Prabhupada speak about it soon, not exactly on that point, but something around it. How to see Krishna at all times, in every circumstance. That is Krishna consciousness. Okay, now go into groups of 2, and guess what go into groups of 2, and guess what you have to do. Please try to memorize the verse. Simple groups of 2. Are you ready? Okay. Who's ready? Who's ready without looking? I see that a lot of the children are used to exams and all the pressure, where the adults are not used to the pressure. They're only used to putting their children under the pressure. Okay, you two together read the verse. Say the verse. Sometimes you have to not see things. Very nice, very nice. Okay. Okay, Krishnadas. Are you going to look?
Tattenukampam susumikshmano punjana evatmakritam vipakam hridvagavapubher vidadhan namaste jivetayo
Mukti Pade.
muktipade sadaya bhag.
Very nice. Okay, any of the older kids? Okay.
Tattenukampam susamikshmano bhunjana evatmakritam vipakam hridvagvapurbhir vidadam namaste jivetayo muktipade sadaya bhag.
Very nice. And now, still older. Over 20s. Yes, okay, you're over 20, okay.
तत्तेऽनुकम्पां सुसुमीक्षमाणो भुञ्जान एवात्मकृतं विपाकं हृद्वाग्विपुभिर्विददान् नमस्ते जीवे तयोर्मुक्तिपदे सदया भाग.
Okay, one more. Thank you. Okay.
No, I already know this before. I didn't
Okay, so give it to someone else. And then we'll ask for some of the Matajis if they'd like to say. Matajis are in shy mode. There's one. Also shy, but ready to say the verse.
तत्तेऽनुकम्पां सुसमीक्षमानो भुञ्जान एवात्मकृतं विपाकं हृद्वाग्वपुर्भिर्विददान् नमस्ते जीवेतयो मुक्तिपदे सदाय भाग.
Very nice, very nice. What does Eva Atmakritam mean? Vipakam. Raise your hand. Because not just memorize the verse, we should know what it means. Eva Atmakritam Vipakam. Atmakritam. Yeah. Reactions to my past activities. Eva, certainly. Certainly. And what does Susamiksamano mean? Raise your hand. Excuse me? Earnestly waiting, thank you, or hoping for what? Anukampam, mercy, compassion of Krishna. Rid, vag, vapurvir. Rid, heart, vak, words, vapurvir, actions, vedadanam namaste, offering obeisances with all three. All three, in other words, fully, actually me, really meaning it. Not just words, not just actions, but with full-hearted consciousness. Such a person, jivatyo, just by living, just by being alive and living in this way, he achieves mukti pade, because it's just natural for him, because he's seeing Krishna in everything, even the difficulties. Even in the difficulties. Now we are ready for the third section of the class. The context in which this verse is spoken by whom? Raise your hand. Lord Brahma. Oh yeah, raise your hand and then. Yeah. Now, when Krishna, in the 11th chapter of the 10th canto, Radhaman, could you play harmonium for this one? When Krishna one day wanted to go on a picnic with his cowherd boyfriends, and it was It was wonderful what happened. And one of the things that happened is that there were asankhya calves going out. What does asankhya mean? Countless, unlimited, practically speaking. How could there be unlimited calves? Well, how could all the calves who want to be with Krishna come? Unless Krishna allowed somehow or another with his inconceivable potency. Unlimited calves, unlimited cowherd boys. They went out for their picnic. And a great demon named Aghasura took the form of a huge, what's the Sanskrit word for python? Because snake is sarp, ajgar. Yeah. And he opened his mouth wide to swallow, because who are his brother and sister? He came from quite a family, Putana and Bakasura. And the boys wanted to play because Vrindavan was always presenting them with more and more wonderful playgrounds. So they saw this as a mountain cave, and that as they got close, they thought, oh, wait a second. This isn't a cave, but it's a huge snake. This is an astounding pastime, actually. And it appears ready to swallow us up. Krishna didn't want them to enter, obviously, because they were his beloved friends. But the boys wanted to enter because they wanted to have the experience of being saved by Krishna. So laughing and frolicking and playing and pushing each other and playing instruments, they walked into the snake using the road of his tongue. And Krishna stood there in amazement because he thought, I don't want them to enter. And yet they're entering. How is it possible that something is happening exactly opposite to my desire? And then he understood that, and if you understand this, you understand how Vrindavan works. That Krishna had one desire, and the cowherd boys had another desire due to their prema, due to their love for Krishna. They wanted the experience of being saved by Krishna. That experience of being saved again and protected by their beloved Krishna, so their love for him would grow still further. So Krishna was thinking about this, and then he saw that Yogamaya, is Mahamaya, who controls this world, and Yogamaya, who controls the spiritual world. He saw that Yogamaya had not taken his side, but had taken the side of the boys due to their love for him. So who rules Vrindavan, actually? It's not Krishna. It's who? Yes. It's the love for Krishna that makes Vrindavan what it is, and what makes everything work. So the boys entered, and then Krishna, now I have to save them. And then he killed Aghasura, and Aghasura, his soul merged into the body of Krishna, and Brahma saw this, and he was amazed. How is this demon get Sayuja Mukti, get liberated? So he wanted to see who this cowherd boy was. They told him that this is your master, the Supreme Lord, but how could he be a little boy walking around without shoes in Vrindavan? How could he be my master? So let me test him, he thought. So what did he do? Raise your hand. What did he do? Yes, little one. Something quite like that. He took away the cowherd boys, first the calves and the cowherd boys. He wanted to see what Krishna would do. And what did Krishna do? He expanded himself into exactly the same number of cowherd boys and calves who had all the same characteristics. He expanded himself And for 1 year that went on. And then when Brahma came back, of course there are so many details in the pastime that are wonderful. When Brahma came back, he was amazed because he had taken the boys away and then he came back and the boys were still there. So he knew where he had hidden them and he thought maybe they're not there anymore. Maybe these are the same boys. So he went to the cave where he had placed them and they were still there. And then he thought maybe they're going back and forth. So he went back to where Krishna was and they were there too. And then Krishna showed Brahma what was actually going on. And he saw that these cowherd boys and these calves were actually expansions of Krishna. They were all Narayan forms. The calves and the boys were all forms of Krishna. And they were unlimited. There were asankhya calves and practically asankhya boys. And they were all expansions of Krishna with 4 arms. They were being worshipped by everyone. They were covered by tulsi leaves. All the energies of the Lord were serving them. Now, listen to what he saw. He saw that this little cowherd boy had expanded himself. He was so powerful. A little cowherd boy was so powerful that he expanded himself into unlimited forms of himself as Lord Narayan. And each of those unlimited forms had unlimited power. Now think of what that means. Unlimited forms had come from Krishna, and each of those unlimited forms had unlimited power. So how powerful is the unlimitedly powerful Krishna? Unlimiteds had come from him. Now try to think of what that means. Unlimiteds came from him and he hasn't gotten any less powerful. Now, with not really thinking about it, because when Brahma thought about it, he saw it, and he, practically speaking, became unconscious. Because he was seeing Krishna, and he was testing his power. And then he got a glimpse. He didn't understand Krishna's unlimited power, but he got a glimpse of what unlimited power means. And he, practically speaking, fainted. Unlimited power, unlimited beauty, unlimited wealth, unlimited fame, unlimited knowledge, unlimited detachment. A little cowherd boy. So Krishna then dropped the curtain of his Yoga Maya, and Brahma came to, and he saw Vrindavan again. And he saw Krishna standing there. And the first verse in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto is the description, Omidyate Abra Vibhushe Tadir Ambaraya, that he offered his obeisances to Krishna, this beautiful cowherd boy who stood there with his yellow garments and his flute and his cowherd and the yogurt in his left hand. He just saw Krishna like that and offered his obeisances. And one of the things he said was that some people may say they understand God. Some people may even try to place the concept of God in their limited intelligence. But I will never say that after experiencing what I saw. He got a glimpse of unlimited power. And one of the prayers that he said was by one's intelligence. One can never understand Krishna. And Mahaprabhu also quoted this verse today, Sita Shrutagatam. You just stay in your place. You want to understand Krishna? Don't try to understand him with your own mind, with your own intelligence. Don't try to understand the unlimited complexities of this world even, which is just a minute fraction of his creative potency. You'll never understand the greatest. You'll never understand the smallest. You can go to the level of gluons and quarks and up quarks and down quarks, and you'll never understand. You'll never understand. You'll understand one thing, and then that gate will open up and there'll be 17 more questions, and you walk through one of those gates and try to understand that. You'll never understand the potency of Krishna and the macro, because the unlimited universe is the universe is expanding always, but into what? If it's expanding, what is it expanding into? What's beyond the universe that it's expanding? One can never understand. The scientists are thinking in terms of making up concepts like multiverses, which is quite true in a sense, but they can never understand. It's just a kind of arrogance. They can't understand the unlimited. And what to speak of the person from whom all this comes from, who's standing there with his flute and a little boy. So he says this verse, rather than trying to understand with your intelligence, you understand that you are dealing with someone who is dealing with you, and you see him in everything. See him in everything good that happens as his mercy, and see him in everything that we think is not good, and just see him and have such a relationship with him that you know that you are in his hands. Then if you live in that way, because you're so intimately connected with him, and with words, with body, with heart, that just living in that way, you become qualified to be with him. Because you are already with him. Because you're seeing him in everything and everywhere. So at that time, Brahma said this when confronted with unlimitedly unlimited Krishna. Two minutes worth of questions. Yes.
Here it says eligible for liberation. So, which liberation is spoken of?
Which do you want? For a devotee? It means that basically he's not in such a person is not in the material world. But whatever the devotee liberation, whatever relationship the devotee wants with Krishna, that is the one he has. It's not like you have an eternal relationship with Krishna. Say you're making garlands for Krishna forever. And you say, but I don't want to make, no, I'm sorry, that's your relationship with Krishna. But, and it's forever too. I have to make garlands forever, just sitting here? It's not like that at all. Krishna is reciprocating with the soul's desire, and that soul's desire is basically natural to him. It's who we are. Because think about it. If you look at it from the psychological point of view, I won't get into it too much, but there's something called complexes. You know what a complex is? It's like a computer virus that it forces you to act in a certain way, whether you like it or not. So we react to certain things. We are conditioned souls. We are conditioned by our country we're born in, by our friends, by our families, by the times in which we live, by the culture that we live in. We're conditioned. That means controlled. And we think that I am freely choosing how I act. But we're not. So then the question is, if we take away all the conditioning, all the things that aren't us, neti, 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 what is left? Who am I? So the impersonalists say you are just consciousness. But we say consciousness is the symptom of who we are. And not only that, if bhakti is added to the consciousness, or the consciousness is developed with this bhakti, then who we really are blossoms. So who do you think you are? Oh, that's not a fair question to ask, perhaps. So Krishna will reciprocate with however you'd like to serve him. That kind of liberation. But it begins with this fully trusting, loving relationship with Krishna and serving in that. And then he bestows that. That's described in the 11th canto, and one of the comments right before, in the 3rd chapter of the 11th canto, 12th canto rather, that when you leave your body, Mriyananam, when you're thinking of Krishna, that if you're thinking of Krishna with great love, that he will reveal to you, he will take you to your actual identity, but it's even possible to understand that before. But one has to be very, very sincere, completely sincere. Or just somehow or another, Krishna goes. So now, we have a break in 15 minutes, but I would like to just go over something else, and then, I find this very interesting, that Prabhupada's, let's hear Prabhupada right now. Because the idea, if you see Krishna in everything that happens to you, then you're always seeing him. You're not seeing anything independent of him. That means you're seeing him everywhere, at all times. And seeing his kindness at all times. Now Prabhupada's going to speak about a Bhagavad Gita verse, Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra, which talks about seeing Krishna everywhere. And I'm going to ask you what you think about what Prabhupada said, and if anything struck you. "1969, very early while Prabhupada is preaching in San Francisco, Los Angeles.
For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me."
That's all. How you can be lost of Krishna? That is sada sadabhava bhavita. So if you practice your life in this way, never lost to Krishna, so at the time of death, you are sure to go to Krishna. Where you are going? You are not lost to Krishna. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranasati. And Krishna promises, my dear Arjuna, my pure devotee is never lost. So don't be lost to Krishna. That is perfection. That is perfection. Simply don't be lost to Krishna. You can forget all things and don't forget Krishna. Then you are richest. People may see you are a very poor man, just like Goswamis. They adopted very poor life, mendicant. They were ministers, very opulent, very honorable gentlemen. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, learned scholars, rich men, ministers, in every respect their social position so high. But they accepted these mendicants. Tatvatu nammasi samandala patisaning. That Goswami prayer you will find. Tatvatu namasi samandala patisaning sadatu chavat. Just like most insignificant, they gave up everything. Bhuttvadina ganesako karunaya kopina kanthasito. Kopina kanthasito, just one underwear and loincloth, that's all. They become accepted the poorest way of life. But how they could live? If a very rich man accepts such poor condition of life, he cannot live. We have seen it. If one is habituated to high standard of life, if you immediately lower his standard of life, he cannot live. But they lived very happily. And that is stated. Gopi bhavara samrita dilahari kallula magno moho bande rupa sanatana ravirugo Sri Jivago. They were richest by dipping themselves in the ocean of loving affairs of the gopis. So, if you simply think of the loving affairs of the gopis for Krishna, then you are not lost. There are so many ways. Don't be lost to Krishna. Then you are successful. Then Krishna will also not be lost and he will be not lost. Gone.
Purport. The person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere, and he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of the material nature, but in each and every instance he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is the manifestation of Krishna's energy.
Now if one sees a tree, he is philosopher. Krishna conscious person is philosopher. If he studies, what is this tree? He sees the tree is a material, it has got a material body, just like I have got this material body, but he is a living entity. Due to his past misdeeds, he has got such abominable body that he cannot move him. But his body is material, and material means the material energy. And material energy, whose energy? Krishna's energy. Therefore the tree has got Krishna connection. And the tree as living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. So in that way, if you discuss philosophy, Krishna consciousness, you see, don't see the tree, you see Krishna there. That is Krishna consciousness. You don't see tree, you see Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. So you have to practice like that. That is yoga practice. That is samadhi.
Well, what do you think? Anything struck you from what Prabhupada said? Yes, Mr. Hayagriva Prabhu. What struck you?
What struck me was in the Prabhupada was saying that if a rich person is his standard of his living is of high standard, if his standard is lowered, he cannot live. That's the point that struck.
Yeah. Then how about the other point? That how did the Goswamis do it? Because they were very, 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 very elevated in society, persons so wealthy, so much power, but yet they were living as mendicants wandering in Vrindavan. How did they do it? They were tasting sweetness and happiness from a completely different level. Otherwise, it's impossible. So no imitation. You can't imitate it, or otherwise you'll search for happiness on the same old material level. So it's so important to become deep in our Krishna consciousness. And how to become deep? Try to see Krishna everywhere. How to see Krishna everywhere? Tatenu kampam susamikshmano. We'll speak about that as soon as the break is over. Anyone else? Anything strike you? Yes. What do you mean by heavy? That's very heavy. But it's very humbling. And what's the benefit of being humble? When you're proud, you think you can do everything yourself. Yes, someone said it in the back. When you're humble, you're always requiring help. Tatenu kampam susamakshmano. Always calling out to Krishna for his compassion. Thank you. Anyone else like to say what struck them? Raise your hand though. How about Prabhupada's tone of voice? Did that strike you? Strike us and knock us over. What do you think?
When good things happen to us, it's easy to understand. It's Krishna. All because of mercy of Krishna. It's nice. When bad things happen, because Krishna can do no harm to us, we tend to think that it's because of the karma, past life karma or this life karma. So how do we see Krishna in bad things when they happen? How do we do that?
Well, Atma Kritam Kam. To always turn to Krishna. Pray to Krishna and offer him obeisances. To know that his hand is in everything. And there's purports or comments that I'm going to read, both of the BBT comments to different verses, and also Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's comments, but I'll save that for the next. But it takes such depth to live in this world free from the anxieties of life. Takes such depth of Krishna consciousness to see, to perceive, to believe, to accept that Krishna's hand is in everything. Superficiality will not help us, or will help us in understanding that we are superficial and we are not deep, that we're not yet really devotees. And when we understand that we're not devotees, that's a very good step in becoming devotees. Then we become humble. And then we call Krishna. I've been trying for so many years, so many lives, and still look at my situation. Unless you're merciful to me, who will help me? How will I advance? How will I serve you? Everything, every attempt I make to serve you is covered by my selfishness. I'm trying to get something for me out of serving you. Something, at least something. But see my position, Krishna. Now, I'm moving into the next part of the class already, but so we'll just wait for that. But that's the basic idea. Does that sort of address what you were asking? As long as we are proud that I am doing this, I am doing that, ahankara vimudatma, kart aham, iti manite, I'm doing this, see my power, look at these people over here, they think they can do something, they haven't seen what I can do. On and on and on, the mind will say these kind of foolish, crazy things, untruth things, lies. And then in 1 second, and then if something good happens to us, You say that we turn to Krishna, but often we say, look how good I am. Look what I've done. And we don't turn to Krishna very often. We're just actually, in fact, resting on Krishna's energy, Krishna's mercy continuously and only. Just imagine if the beating of your heart was dependent on you remembering to beat your heart. And you forgot for a minute. You were finding out who was winning the cricket match or something. What is that called? What's it called? The parasympathetic nervous system? Yes, thank you. Yes. But how is it automatically happening? Have you seen things work systematically, automatically? No. Thank you. Any last question before we have a break? Yes, Arjuna. Oh wait, there's going to be two. One in the back and then Arjuna Saka, you'll be the last. Yes. Yes. You're going to have to do it without the microphone. Because it's coming. When Krishna expanded himself,
as the cowherd boys and cows.
Yes.
So you mentioned one aspect, which is the Brahma's aspect, that he saw and then he was amazed and he fainted.
Stunned.
Stunned. On the other hand, the cowherds' mothers, they felt more joy than they used to feel their own children, because Krishna was with them.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Arjuna Saka Prabhu. Last question before the break. We'll have time at the end for questions and answers. But Arjuna Saka Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhu, this particular verse is talking about our past misdeeds, last life or this life, and all. So that gives misery to a devotee, or he faces some troubles in one's life. Also, we say that sometimes Krishna is giving a test for a devotee. So how do we see whether it's our stupidity or it's Krishna's test that is in front of us when we are facing challenges?
Well, if it's Krishna's test, how do we act? And why is he giving us that particular test? And what is he testing? And that comes up in some of the comments we'll read just soon. But the point is, the test is the same always. Are we going to hold tightly to Krishna's feet and pray to him for shelter? That is the test. Or, on the other hand, are we going to turn our back on him? Sometimes we might even get angry at Krishna. Why are you doing this to me? After all I've done for you? Sometimes we turn our back on Krishna. That is a test. And who are tests made for? It's not for the teachers as much for self-assessment. You look every day at how you deal and how you react to what happens to you. Take your test and see how much advancement you require to make. Do I always take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Do I run away from him? Am I still running? I call myself a devotee. But when the tension is on, like what was his name? Yeah, there's so many examples. But Pralambasura, when he was carrying who? Balaram. So the weight of Pralambasura on Pralambasura, who was disguised as a cowherd boy, that weight, the difficulty, forced him to give up his imitating a cowherd boy, and his real form came out. So I feel like that sometimes. I'm imitating devotee, but then under pressure, when there's weight, the real form comes out. So that's a test. And the test again is to see that I need to deepen my Krishna consciousness. To do this, Ridvagva Puram Vidama Namaste, in every circumstance, it takes depth. And when we try to do it, it gives birth to humility. And humility gives birth to the calling out, the need, and the taking shelter. And that gives birth to Krishna's reciprocation. So it's, on one hand, it's easy to understand, but it's easy to understand, but not so easy to do. But unless we understand the system, then we don't recognize what's actually happening. And then, if we don't learn to turn to Krishna in life, how will we deal with Ante Narayana Smriti? Because that is a frightening circumstance. I've heard Prabhupada say, no one dies peacefully. I'm looking forward to a peaceful, no one dies peacefully. Okay, 15 minutes. And then please come back on time and we'll continue. Yes. Wait, there's a question.
Are you saying, therefore, that whether it's a test or whether it's your stupidity that's involved in that particular situation, in both cases you could say that there's the test or the examination, what am I going to do in this situation, whether it's my fault, you could say, or whether it's Krishna's arrangement, the response has to be the same?
The same. And there's, why are you getting that test and other people are getting another test? So it has something to do with you too. But the response is the same, basically. Do I turn to Krishna or do I turn away from Krishna? Even when I'm hungry and tired, what do I do? Okay, 15 minutes, please come back or don't go or whatever, but be awake and ready for the remainder of this, speaking about this verse. Speaking about Prabhupada, when he spoke, it came out. But also I remember one time in New Vrindavan in 1969, I had the fortune of sitting in his room with just a few other devotees, and he was speaking to everyone about remembering Krishna and the importance of remembering Krishna. And when he was speaking, he said to Brahmananda Prabhu, who had been, chanting for 2 or 3 years, perhaps 3 years, and he said, Prabhupada said, all you have to do is organize your life in such a way that you always remember Krishna. And he turned to Brahmananda Prabhu and said, it's not difficult, is it? And Brahman, no, it's so easy. So Prabhupada, he really expected, and it comes out in his voice and the way he's speaking, he expected and pushed us to come to a higher level, a level where we actually are continuously associating with Krishna. Now, I can't really say whether he actually thought we were capable of doing it, but he pushed and encouraged us. It's not difficult, is it? You're thinking anyway, so why not think about Krishna all the time? So Prabhupada was very mysterious in a way. He was so deep, so deep. He was so deep, and he really saw the way the world was going, and he really wanted to affect the whole world, not even the whole world. He told Jagatrini Mataji and I, it is my desire that everyone in the universe becomes Krishna conscious. The universe. And he was ready to do his best to do that. So what a mission, and that we are part of. So, and he wanted us to try our best too. Now, the first verse we spoke about this morning was to encourage us to get on the path, but not to think that just being on the path with all the luggage that we're carrying will get us to the goal. We have to have the heart of a Vaishnava, which means attachment to Krishna, full attachment to Krishna. So it's a process, it's a practice of attaining that. And this verse revealed Tatayana Kampam Susamikshamano, a very important part of that process. How to live one's life in such a way that it's quite natural to learn our relationship with Krishna. And again, to learn to trust our relationship with Krishna. To learn to live a life that what's really of value. Yes, we have to do so many things. We have to do so many things. But how to use the whole life, our whole life, so it funnels, it goes in the direction that's for our benefit. Some of us may go directly like this. We have that kind of ability. Some of us may be a little bit more indirect and go like this. And some of us may be a little more indirect and have to go like this. And some of us maybe have to go like this. But never mind. Let us not at least go in the opposite direction. So the essence of this instruction was to see Krishna. To learn how to see Krishna in all times and all circumstances. Yomam pashyati sarvatra. Savam chamayi pashyati. For one who sees me everywhere, in everything in me, same mood. I am never lost to that person, nor is that person ever lost to me. And it's so easily, naturally done when there is rag, attachment, love for Krishna. When our consciousness is colored by love for Krishna, then it's completely natural. But until we're on that platform, we have to push a little bit, not a little bit, but we have to make sure we're going in the right direction. We have to stay in the association of devotees. We have to worship the deities. We have to chant. Not that we don't do these things, but it's completely natural when there's love. Spontaneous love. So everything, the Vaidhi that we do, is no different from the spontaneous love in the sense that it is meant to support spontaneous love. This is the version of Srila Jiva Goswami pointed out by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Bhakti Sundarbha. That the Vaidhi isn't actually Vaidhi. It's actually in supportive of spontaneous devotion because it's meant to bring us to that platform. And then that verse of Jato Anaraga of Mahaprabhu's when Madhavan Lokavaya, just in ecstasy continuously, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? When will that desire be so dominant in my consciousness? Where is Krishna? I cannot live a moment without Krishna and his service. And when that enters our consciousness, that mood, then our chanting will have so much power, as Prabhupada said, like a baby crying for mother. The mother must come because there's a special potency that I want my mother and I don't want anything else. That cry has so much potency. The mother must come. Mercy must come. If we have that kind of sincerity. But unfortunate as I am, what to do? Continue, etc., etc., and try to apply these verses. So this second verse is how to live one's life in such a way that we cannot forget Krishna. So I would like to just, in this remaining 10 minutes of this section, Jiva Goswami. Oh, could you read those verses now? Do you have them up? This is from 5th chapter of 11th canto. We need the microphone over here. If you read the Sanskrit, I'll read the English.
Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 5th chapter, verse 36. Kalim sambhajayantyarya gunajna sarvabhasarabhaginaha yatra sankirtanenaiva sarva swartho bhilabhyate.
Those who are actually advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this Kali Yuga. There is a blessing in the confusion and the difficulties of Kali Yuga. Such enlightened persons worship Kali Yuga because in this fallen age, all perfection of life can easily be achieved by the performance of Sankirtan. Did you hear the word Sankirtan when Prabhu read the verse? Could you read that line again?
Yatra sankirtanenaiva.
Certainly. What a blessing of Kali Yuga. Now the next verse.
Nahyata paramolabho dehinam brahmyatamiha yato vindeda paramam shantim nashyadi samshrutihi.
Indeed, there is no higher possible gain for a soul within a material body, who is forced to wander throughout the material world. There is no higher gain than the Supreme Lord's Sankirtan movement, by which one can attain the supreme peace and free oneself from the cycle of repeated birth and death. Thank you. Now, in the BBT purport, there's first a quotation from the Skanda Purana. During Kali Yuga, the great devotees of the Lord always engage in kirtan, chanting the Lord's holy names. It is the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be merciful, and He is especially merciful to those who in a helpless condition take complete shelter of His lotus feet. One can immediately take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord by chanting His holy names. And then the purport, BBT purport continues. According to Sridhar Swami, even in the previous ages, such as Satya Yuga, it was not possible for the living entities to achieve the perfection that is available in Kali Yuga. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this as follows. Why is Kali Yuga so blessed, which is what the verses are actually saying? Even in Satya Yuga, which is such an amazingly peaceful situation, even in Satya Yuga, it is not as blessed as Kali Yuga, which is so full of quarrel and confusion. Why? Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this as follows. In former ages, such as Satya Yuga, human beings were perfectly qualified and easily performed even the most difficult spiritual processes, meditation for many thousands of years without eating or sleeping. Thus, although in any age, one who completely takes shelter of the Lord's holy names gets all perfection, the highly qualified people of Satyuga do not consider that merely moving the tongue and the lips, chanting the Lord's holy names, is a complete process, and that the Lord's holy name is the only shelter within the universe. They can't accept it, that it's so easy. They are more attracted to the difficult and elaborate yoga system of meditation, asanas, pranayam, meditation, dhyan, and samadhi, and meditating on the Lord in the heart. But in Kali Yuga, now I'm not reading anymore, in Kali Yuga, there is so much difficulty. Especially there is so much anxiety. You know, I don't have the statistics with me, but how many how many of the children grow up only with one parent? How many of the parents are in anxiety about their finances? How many this? How about the jobs, insecurity, etc., 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 health, strange diseases, viruses coming, that everyone has to wear a mask as if previously if you walked into a bank wearing a mask, they would think. But now, not in this day, but not today, but strange diseases that you don't know what's going to happen. And so there's so much anxiety in Kali Yuga. Uncertainty of the future. So therefore, if we learn what Jiva Goswami is saying, that the very benefit of Kali Yuga is the curse of Kali Yuga, is the anxiety that everyone is in, is the unsteadiness of mind that everyone has, the disturbance of mind. To just sit peacefully and chant and focus the mind is so difficult. This is Kali Yuga. Manda samandamatiyo manda abhagya upadruta. Upadratuma means minds are disturbed. So the curse of Kali Yuga is the anxiety. The blessing of Kali Yuga is the anxiety. Because if we take that anxiety as Krishna pushing us to his lotus feet by always chanting, or trying our best to always chant. And when we forget, if we lose one moment, Vasudevam nachintayat, it is the greatest loss. A moment forgetting Krishna, a moment removed from the shelter of Krishna's holy names and remembrance of him. And Kali Yuga is so merciful that it pushes us through anxiety to take shelter of the holy names. So take shelter of the holy names. In difficulty, in good times, that's the meaning of this verse. When difficulties come, see it is Krishna. And I heard Prabhupada say this, I listened to the lecture again this morning. He said, Krishna has come to me in this form. Let me see that. Now this is not superficial. One cannot do this unless one is deep. And how does one become deep? One has to live one's life in this way. One has to live one's life in this way. And one, when I say has to, I don't mean that we have to, because we certainly don't have to. We can do so many other things. But if one lives one's life with that goal, as Prabhupada said to Brahmananda Prabhu, always organize your life in such a way that you can't forget Krishna. It's easy, isn't it, Brahman? Oh yes, Prabhupada. Yes. Now, here's a comment of of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on Tatayano Kampam, and then I'll read the BBT purport. Let's see if we have enough time. No, but I'll read just little bits of it by Vishwanath. I found this very powerful as I do the BBT purport to this. Now that other processes, because before this Tatayano Kampam verse is spoken, other processes were rejected, Gyan, Karma, Yoga. Now that other processes have been rejected and Bhakti accepted as the process to attain Bhagavan, this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the process of Bhakti is described in this verse. This is the process of Bhakti. The devotee understands that the happiness and distress that he experiences due to performing Bhakti and his committing of aparads, the happiness and distresses are the mercy of the Lord. It is like the father who sometimes makes his child drink milk and sometimes makes him drink bitter neem juice. Sometimes he embraces and kisses him, and sometimes the devotee thinks that this, whatever happens, is the arrangement of the Lord working for his benefit. He thinks the Lord knows what's best for me. I do not know. Karma and time have no effect on the devotee, so it is by his personal arrangement. By his mercy, he sometimes gives me happiness and sometimes gives me distress, and he considers how to engage me in his service. Just like the father naturally does what's beneficial for the son. And as the inheritance from the father is the livelihood for the son, so the attainment of liberation and service to the Lord maintains the life of the devotee. And while living in this world, the devotee remains fixed on the path of devotion. So test, not exactly karma, but Krishna's mercy. Krishna adjusts the karma. This is the BBT purport. The word susamikshana indicates that a devotee earnestly awaits the mercy of the Supreme Lord, even while suffering the painful effects of his previous sinful activities. But Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who fully surrenders unto him is no longer liable to suffer the reactions of his previous karma. However, because in his mind a devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last bits of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotees punishment that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. The unhappiness, a little further down, the unhappiness suffered by a sincere devotee is not technically a karmic reaction. It is rather the Lord's special mercy for inducing his devotee to completely let go of the material world and return home back to Godhead. A sincere devotee earnestly desires to go back to the Lord's abode. One time in Japan, Prabhupada was giving class, and he said, in the end of the class, that a devotee should want to go back to Godhead. Sometimes there's other things said, but he should want to be with Krishna. And therefore, and I was very young devotee. Not that now I'm old, but not an old devotee. But then I said in a very cute way, "Oh, Prabhupada, we don't want to go back to Godhead. We just want to serve you." And he said, "Don't make me come back just to accept your service." A sincere devotee earnestly desires to go back to the Lord's abode, Therefore, he willingly accepts the Lord's merciful punishments and continues offering respects and obeisances to the Lord with his heart, words, and body. Such a bona fide servant of the Lord, considering all hardships a small price to pay for gaining the personal association of the Lord, certainly becomes a legitimate son of God, as indicated here by the words Dayabak. Just as one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire, one cannot approach the Supreme Pure, Lord Krishna, without undergoing a strict, rigid, purificatory process, which may appear like suffering, but which is, in fact, a curative treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. To be in this consciousness is not superficial. But when we see, when dealing with life, that we're not quite in that consciousness, then that is an assessment to see how much we have to move forward. Okay, what we'll do now for the remaining time, which is 10 minutes, or instead of having the small groups, and then we'll begin, Jagtavini, Mataji, your classes will be, 6:30, so that means we should stop now. And then, but why don't we give everyone a little extra time, and then 6:45 we'll begin your class, and then it can go a little later so that everyone's rested and ready and refreshed to be on time, because we're going to be able to hear about what the spiritual world is like. The very, very delicate dealings of the spiritual world. Okay, class dismissed. Hare Krishna. So exactly at, oh, that's too long. 6:30. Can you be back at 6:30 exactly? Okay. Okay. Okay? Okay? Thank you.